I do not normally do a lot of tech videos. I'm not entirely sure why, really, given the fact that I work in IT and different other related fields and areas over the years, and the fact that I glance around and I realize I have like 20 computers of different operating systems and time periods, etc. So, yeah, at any rate, I wanted to put forth some information if you wanted to play some old games on Windows 10. It's not as easy as it might sound, and it's not as hard. Depends on a whole host of variables. One old game, such as Mech Commander, which is the first real time strategy game I ever played. Goodness, how old was I when that came out? At any rate, I played it on a system I had at the time. I'm trying to remember, was it running Windows XP? If it was, it was the first Service Pack rendition. It may have been one of the other ones. Um, don't recall. I don't recall what the exact operating system was, but I remember this about that system. It had a 900 megahertz processor, single core, and that was a screaming high-end system back in the day. And I played Mech Commander relentlessly on it. Eventually, I put the game away. A couple different things happened, and I was going through some stuff, and I found it. Oh, Mech Commander! I wonder if it ran on this system. I loaded it up on a system I had at the time. This one was I know it was an XP machine, but it was much more advanced, and it may have even been a dual core at that point, but I don't recall. And it wouldn't run. Literally, everything about the game was so sped up it wasn't playable. It was like you're being just everything at hyper speed flying around. You couldn't. It was not playable. So the timing in systems in the games have changed over time, and a couple things need to be done to change those. And some of it actually is automatic under Windows 10 and even Windows 7, 8, or 10. For Mech Commander, what's interesting is all you really have to do is create a directory for microprocess in the x86 file and just copy the install disk right in. Create an icon and or shortcut and play it. It loads up and runs just fine. Which is kind of interesting because it's not something I would have expected be that easy. Other games are much more problematic. For example, Diablo 2. It would install fine actually on a Windows 7 machine, but on a Windows 10 it would not. It just say nope, nothing doing. Wouldn't even try. However, if you install it on one system, copy the directory under the x86 file and paste it into the Windows 10 machine, it loads up and runs fine. The compatibility modes inside Windows 7, 8, and 10, I have never noticed significant help with that. I've never noticed them actually doing much. I'm sure some games they do. It's not like I want to come across saying, oh, they're useless. The games that I play, I've not noticed anything. Either they are not needed, or it doesn't matter what I do with them, the game still runs about an hour and then crashes. For example, Axis and Allies, the real-time strategy game. It runs about an hour, hour and a half, then it begins to develop some instabilities, visual artifacts, ghosting, all sorts of stuff. Starts just collapsing, and then it will either crash or just get really, really funky. And eventually it gets so bad then it will crash. Eventually it will. But 2 hours at most you'll get out of it. But you can pretty rely on it to run for an hour. Now it runs fine under XP, Vista. I want to say it ran fine under 7. I've not tried it on a 7 machine recently. At least extensively to really test it and make sure. Anyway, so it's surprising how easy some of it is. It's just copy it into the directory or copy one from one game to another game. Of course, there are some people who do virtual machines. I've had problems. I think it's just a quirk with my system where it does not like to run DOSBox or virtual machines. It just doesn't. I've tried many things, many different tweaking. There was one time it would run it and it ran the game in it, but it would not allow it to connect to the network or online, which then be able to play with other people in the local network. So I was consulting with a friend trying to see what's going on and troubleshoot it. And eventually he, different ideas and things we were going over, he eventually said, "Is it really that important to be able to play the game?" And at this point, I'd been wrestling with the thing for several days, and it's like, probably not. I'm better off having an old laptop or other system that I can just run it on, which is what I do. But something that you can do to really save yourself a lot of trouble, a lot of hassle, and a lot of frustration. If you like to play some of the old games, for example, the original Civilization, which I don't even know why. I mean, the graphics are so outdated. The everything about the game is old, and there's a certain element to these retro games that I can't even fully explain why. Why do I find these so fascinating? Why do I enjoy playing them? I'm sure there's an element of going back to my youth, going back to when I was in my teens, high school, or whatever the era was. I'm sure there is an element to that, but there's a certain playability to the games that is lost in the modern games. And Civilization, which I have a legal copy of, would not play. I tried every trick I could, and it would just, Windows 10 would just say, "not in here," and just would not let it run no matter what I did. And it was really frustrating because I was trying to figure out how on earth to get this to work. I was actually doing some web searches trying to find if other people, if they've done some tweaks, if they found some patch that they can put out by a third party or something that's able to run some of these games or some other option. And that's when I stumbled upon the fix to be able to play Civilization 1 on Windows 10. It's called a website, Classic Reloaded. ClassicReloaded.com. It's just basically runs virtual machines, allowing you to play these old classic video games. It's pretty cool. So if you like it, I thought I'd at least pass it along. If you're interested and you don't want to go through all the hassle of reinstalling some of these things and getting them into old systems, you can just go to the website. Some of them do have some stability issues because you're talking decades difference in the hardware, software, and programming to get them to work. So it's kind of funny and amazing when you consider that they are actually working. But yes, you can be able to play Civilization, the original. It's cool. So I wanted to pass along that information. Game on!